Of poverty in Ohio is getting worse. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Action News Now on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Josh Croup. We're breaking down what is the state of poverty 2023 here in the Buckeye State. Annual report put out each year by a group that looks at a whole host of scenarios. It looks at census data. It looks at education reports. This year, 3 specific areas that it is looking at to determine the state of poverty in Ohio. Among them, mental health, learning loss from the COVID pandemic, and access to transportation. The headline item to take away from this year's report is this: Ohio's poverty rate for the first time increasing from year to year in more than a decade, going from 12.7% to 13.4%. That is 2021 data. So it is a little bit of a lagging indicator, but it's showing what the impacts of the pandemic have been. Going from 12.7% to 13.4%, not an ideal sign, but the people who are behind this study say that they are optimistic for what is to come in the next few years in Ohio. And we dive into all of that with Philip Cole, who is the leader of the group who put out that report, coming to us from the Ohio Association of Community Action Agencies.
Every year we take a study of this, and we try and look at different aspects, different factors. Some of them keep coming back, but this year we tried to focus on 3 things, which was the loss of learning due to COVID, and accompanying that, the increased cost of college, the lack of public transportation in Ohio, and how that prevents people from really getting out of poverty. And also there's the mental health care crisis. There's so much stress caused by COVID. There's been a real demand on health care, mental health care. And we have not been able to meet the demand in Ohio. Ohio is becoming a tale of 2 states, the haves and the have-nots, and that's a concern.
Where are the haves and where are the have-nots?
The haves are in central Ohio. The good jobs are coming here in big numbers. I think that's going to change. The administration, the DeWine administration, has a good plan, but right now, with the Intel coming in and Google expanding and Amazon and Honda and Amgen and all these other big corporations coming in with good jobs, you've got a lot of activity in central Ohio. It's like this big bubble, but we're not seeing much of that pass to the rest of the state yet.
How long do you think it's going to take for Ohio to rebound from COVID? Because you say, obviously, the lingering effects of the pandemic are what are driving up the poverty numbers. How long until we see that course correction?
One of the causes has been learning loss. The fact that we had to do remote learning, they had to close the schools, and that made a lot of sense at the time. But we have to make up for that loss. When you have all these students who were told to learn remotely and they didn't have computers and they didn't have good internet access, we've got to get the broadband out, like the DeWine administration is focusing on. That's a great idea, and it really needs to be done in Ohio. How many years will that take? I don't know. 3, 4, 5. Public transportation, to help people get from wherever they live to a good job. That's been a problem for decades in this state. We've talked about that over and over. These are public policies, societal values. If we want to get on board with public transportation, Ohio is so far behind. It will take a long time, but it'll take decisions by the General Assembly to put the money behind it. Public transportation is important, but we don't have it in Ohio.
How does something like learning loss experienced over the course of a couple of years in a pandemic affect poverty rates to the point that we saw such a significant increase over the course of 1 year?
Learning loss is something that had many factors. I talked about the lack of computers, lack of internet access, and those kind of things. But also, kids were staying at home, which meant in some cases parents were leaving their jobs because they had to take care of their children, and that, of course, did not help anyone economically. That was a big problem.
What is the big takeaway for you this year, seeing the first increase in more than a decade? I know you hit on a few of the bigger points there of why that is happening. Were you surprised with the findings that your report came out with, and to see the top line poverty rate number go up?
No, I've been doing this so long, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. We were disappointed, but what we did see, because of the three factors that we chose to look at this year, we saw how they were integrated. There's a real problem with having enough mental health counseling, especially in the rural areas of Ohio, and then you combine that with the lack of public transportation, the inability of someone to get from, say, Jackson County to Athens County, where there might be a mental health care provider, and that just compounds the problem.
Is there anything in this report that allows you to be a little bit optimistic about the future? I know one thing, at least, that we saw up here is that Lucas County did see a reversal in poverty rate, like a 1/10 of a percentage point, but it was still a reversal. What optimism do you share with things in this report that we could end on a good note on?
I think the thing I'm optimistic about is the coming good jobs. And it's not just going to be Central Ohio. The administration and the General Assembly have paid for a fund to prepare other sites around the state. So that as these other companies come in, they'll have other places to go and they'll be prepared for them. And those are good jobs, and they pay good money and good benefits. I am optimistic. I'm optimistic because of these companies coming in. And I think that, the fastest way out of poverty is a good job with good benefits, and we're going to see that. And I think we'll see it more than other states do. I think it's going to be a real boom here.
Encouraging note to end on. I appreciate the time, sir. Again, thank you very much. Be well.
Thank you.
Philip Cole from the Ohio Association of Community Action Agencies there, detailing a lot of important points. If you want to dive deeper into that study, the state of poverty in Ohio 2023, vulnerable to disruption, head to our website, 13abc.com. At the top here, we have it linked for you under links we mentioned. You can go straight to the report there. We'll also have notes in this web story where you might be watching this right now. We are diving into this today as our big story, poverty across Ohio and the country, coming up on Action News at 4:30. Christian Brown filling in for Tina Williams today alongside Tony Geftis, the whole gang on TV at 4:30 on TV right now if you want to go join. 4:30 we'll be on there with big story. For all of us here at 13 Action News, I'm Josh Croup signing off from Toledo.